Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. We've got a Monday Night Showdown video for you, week 14 on DraftKings of NFL DFS. A great game between, well, maybe not a great game, but a game between the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. A conference game, a conference matchup, right? And maybe one of the final starts for Eli Manning in his career. He's got a 500 record. It's going to go one way or the other. Vegas has it going the other, with him having to maybe walk away with a losing record on his career as a quarterback. He has been thrust into duty this week because of the injury to Daniel Jones. We have some value on this slate. We have a few injuries that have thrust certain players into contention, and we have a very cheap captain, in my opinion. Somebody that I think is the best captain on this slate, who's going to come in at a lower price, which makes this slate a little bit more interesting than some other showdown slates because of what you can do, and then you can pay up to be contrarian at captain if you'd like. So without any further ado, let's kind of get into it here. If you guys would be so kind, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you ring that notifications bell, because this week 15 is right basically around the corner. I've got a ton of videos coming out for week 15, 16, 17, and throughout the playoffs for NFL. And I don't want you to miss any of them, so make sure that you got that notifications bell rung, and we'll get right into it here. So looking at the slate, we've got Carson Wentz priced all the way up at 17.7, Saquon Barkley, the generational one, at 15.9, Zach Ertz at 14.1, Alshon Jeffrey at 13.8. But against the Giants, with Philly playing at home, favored by 9.5, with a massive mismatch between the offensive line of the Eagles and the defensive line of the Giants, Miles Sanders looks to me to be the best captain candidate on the slate. And if I'm going to build multiple lineups, the one that I want to have the most shares of across my allocations, no matter whether I'm building 10, 20, 50, 100, or 150 lineups, I'm going to want to have a massive amount of Miles Sanders at my captain spot. Now, I don't think that I'm going to be alone in that. He's probably going to be the most popular captain on the slate. And if that means that if you want to try and be contrarian, you can build lineups with him in the flex, but not the captain, to try and open up different things with different correlations. His price in the captain, really only 12.9. If you want to try and correlate him with, because of his pass catching ability, right? Like, we've seen him catch some balls. He's not really been utilized like peak Le'Veon Bell or like Leonard Fournette has this year, or Christian McCaffrey, where he's getting 8, 9, 10 targets, or even Saquon Barkley from last year. He's not being utilized like that, but he does not correlate negatively with Carson Wentz. So while I'm probably not going to force Carson Wentz into every one of my Miles Sanders lineups, I'm not going to force an optimizer to avoid putting him into those lineups either. So I'm okay with Wentz being in those lineups, and then I'm just going to build accordingly, because we're going to have more money to spend on our average remaining salary per player with Miles Sanders in captain, versus some other of the guys in captain. We're usually spending 15K or above for our kind of standard captain spots. You're getting down to 13K. It's allowing you to come off of one kicker. It's allowing you to come off of one punt play and move it up to a more standard play. As usual, correlation is the key. You have to think about what you're doing with every single lineup in Showdown, because if things are happening the way you want them to happen, you want to have the right players going and coming back. Now, there's been some questions in the comments recently about what it means when I say a bring back group. So typically what we speak about on these Showdown slates is correlating lineups around your pass catchers and your captains, right? So if we have a quarterback in captain, like Carson Wentz, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take every single one of the pass catchers on Philly and build a group. I use the Daily Roto Optimizer. You guys know that. If you want to go over there, there's a link down below in the description. You can head over to dailyroto.com, use promo code SMIZLIFE at checkout. It gives you 10% off. The link will do the same. They have a great optimizer there. It allows you to build groups as you're building into your lineups, no matter whether you're building 5, 10, 20, 50, or 150. So as I'm building these groups, this is not a lineup that I'm building, but rather a group in an optimizer. I'm going to put every single pass catcher on Philly in a group with Carson Wentz. That's going to be the first group that I build. I'm probably not going to use Miles Sanders in the pass catcher group for Carson Wentz, but I'm not going to tell you can't, because he is getting about a steady 4 to 6 targets per game. I'm not going to use the Eagles defense in that group. I will use Goddard. I will use the kicker. I'm probably going to include J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Not going to include Jay Ajayi. Probably going to include Greg Ward, because I think he's one of the viable punt plays on this slate, even though he probably projects to only score between maybe 2.5 and 4 fantasy points in this game. I'm going to tell the group or the optimizer, that this group must include in any lineup where Carson Wentz is the captain. It's going to include at least 2 of all that players that I just listed. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to build another group with Carson Wentz at captain. So this is a second group, and this is what I call a bring back group. For all the correlation that a pass catcher or a quarterback has with his pass catchers, there is also tournament winning correlation between pairing them with players on the other team. Because if that quarterback's having a really big game, it probably means that the other team is pushing them, scoring points, in order to keep that quarterback's foot on the throttle. You saw it this weekend with the Saints game against San Francisco. Both quarterbacks kept pushing back at one another, and if San Francisco scored, New Orleans had to keep getting down the field and scoring. Then when they scored, San Francisco had to come down the field and score. You saw it with the Colts against the Buccaneers as well, where Winston was having a pretty good game, and then the Colts started scoring a couple touchdowns, and then Winston had to keep his foot on the pedal, and it makes for big shootout games. So you want to have that bring back group, meaning you've got your group with the Eagles players, you also have your bring back group, and in my bring back group with Carson Wentz at quarterback, or at captain at quarterback, I'm going to have a bring back group with every single one of the New York Giants position players that I believe are eligible on this slate. And I'm also going to have I might have the kicker in there, but I might not either, but it depends. Caden Smith is definitely going to be in that group. Wayne Gallman's a maybe for me. Corey Latimer is a maybe for me. I'm going to make sure that every Carson Wentz at captain lineup has at least one of this group along with them. And we're going to do the same thing for Eli Manning. If you're going to build Eli Manning at captain lineups, you're going to put one group with all the Giants pass catchers, not necessarily runners, definitely not the defense. And then you're going to build that bring back group with all the Philly players, including the quarterback, including the kicker, including everybody that plays for Philly. Because if Eli Manning's having a big game and this game ends up being closer than expected, you're going to have that bring back group to help push and pull at the same time. You don't want to just have 5 and 1 of one team all the time. Yes, in blowouts that can happen. And I think it's going to be very popular on this slate that you're going to see 5 Eagle lineups with 1 Giant coming back from the other side, as opposed to a 4-2 or a 3-3 being the most popular lineup variations. So those are the quarterback correlations. The second thing that we have to talk about is the correlation if you're going to have any of these other pass catchers in your captain spot. So for every Zach Ertz lineup, I'm going to build a separate group that makes it include Carson Wentz in every one of my Zach Ertz at captain lineups. Same thing goes for every pass catcher. I'm not going to do that with my Saquon Barkley captain lineups. He's just not as involved in the passing game as he was last year when he was getting 8, 9, 12, 14 targets a game. That's just not how they're running offense this year. He's getting good usage in the passing game, but nowhere near the type of usage that he got last year. So my Saquon Barkley lineups, with him at captain, are probably not going to have group rules along with them. It's just going to be the rules that I build for the entire slate. That's going to dictate how the optimizer builds the rest of those lineups. Alshon Jeffrey at captain is going to have a Carson Wentz tied to him. Is there anybody? Golden Tate lineups are going to force Eli Manning, because if Golden Tate has a big game, if he has 150 and 2 touchdowns, then Eli Manning is probably also going to have a viable day at 8,200 in the flex. So anytime that you're playing a pass catcher in the captain spot, you want to correlate along with that with a quarterback in the rest. So the defense and the kickers, usually I build a couple of separate groups. At the beginning of the season, with the way that the pricing was, and DraftKings is sharp the way that they build pricing. They don't stick with one single thing throughout the season. They've kind of boosted the defensive prices. They've lowered the kicker prices. At the beginning of the year, we were building one group that had both kickers, had both defenses in it, and now you see the gap between the two defenses, right? So the favored defense that has the advantage is sitting at 5.8. The lesser expected defense to perform well is sitting at 2.8. And the way that this used to run, I don't want Elliott in the captain spot. I want Elliott down here for the sake of this discussion. I used to build groups, one single group, to allow a max of 1 player in the flex from these 4 players. In a game like this, where defense is going to be extremely important, I'm probably not going to have the Giants defense at captain, but I am going to have some Eagles captains lineups, especially with Eli coming off of a 10-week hiatus. I'm not going to disallow having 2 players from this group, but I'm going to build 2 separate groups. And it's one of them is going to be Giants and Eagles, and a max of 1 of those 2 players in that group. So I'm going to have a max of 1 of these 2 defenses in any of the lineups that I build. And then considering the kickers, I'm also going to build a group that says a max at most one of these 2 kickers, along with the other groups that I've built and rules that I've built in with allowing kickers to be in those lineups, because I don't want to have 2 kicker lineups throughout the most line. Now, if I do find that, you know what, I think this is going to be a field goal game, it's fine to have both kickers in your lineup. And last year, at the beginning of 2018, that was kind of the chalk way to build lineups, because the kickers were so mispriced that you could just put both kickers in a lineup and have the top 4 price players on each, including a captain, one of them being your captain, in the rest of the lineup. And it was a very easy, high floor way to build cash game and tournament lineups with an expectation of cashing. They've really tweaked the salaries in a way that you can't really do that anymore. And kudos to DraftKings for doing that, because it was very cookie cutter and a very easy way to win. Now it's way more about correlation. Obviously, you're going to have to get lucky, because that is what it is. You know, Showdown in and of itself, daily fantasy as a whole, is a game that you can do everything right and things can still go sideways, right? That's just the way that this game goes. Who would have thought that on the Sunday slate, that if you told anybody, if you played Alvin Kamara on Sunday, let's just say you had this information before lock, because he was one of the higher owned running backs on the slate. If you were told before lock that that game was going to have over 90 total points scored, and Drew Brees was going to have the amount of points that Drew Brees had on that day, you probably would have lock buttoned Alvin Kamara. You probably would not have thought that he had about, what, 5-6 DraftKings points on that day? So even when things go right, they can go wrong. And when you take an entire slate and you break it down to just one single game, there's a lot more variance inherent as well. So Showdown is a game that I kind of play casually when I play it. I suggest that you do the same, unless you're a super savant and can really show that over time you are a winning player at Showdown. If that is something that you are, kudos to you. We've had a lot of people in our Discord that have won a lot recently with Showdown. There's a link down below to join the Discord. If you're a Twitch subscriber, you get access to the subs only channels in there. So other than that, that's going to do it for this Monday Night Showdown. Thank you guys for showing up once again. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure you ring that notifications bell, and join us on Twitch, as I'm live 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, and Sunday mornings the last 45 minutes before lock. I want to catch you on the live show so I can get to know you. Thank you guys for tuning in, and until that next video, I'll catch you later. Bye.
He's a legend.